This week on Three Things with Catherine Cortez Masto, we're going to be traveling through my home state of Nevada, and you're going to meet real Nevadans. And we're going to talk to them about the impacts that the Trump administration's chaos and uncertainty is having on their lives and their businesses. So come join me. Our first stop is in Reno. We're sitting down with U.S. Navy veteran Kyle Jones to talk about the impact of federal firings on veterans' care and benefits. Thanks for joining me, Kyle. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do me a favor, introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background. You're a Navy veteran, right?
Yeah, so I joined the Navy in 2006, went off to boot camp, and then went to one of the longest training cycles in the Navy for explosive ordnance disposal, and I became an explosive ordnance disposal technician. In 2008, I finally graduated, got through everything. I didn't even stop in training with some other people that get held back and things. I did a tour in Iraq. I did 2 tours in Afghanistan. And then I did a tour in Bahrain as a chief. And then I hung up my hat so my wife could become active duty and I could stay home and take care of the kids.
And what year did you separate?
I separated in 2014.
In 2014. So from 2006 to 2014.
Yeah. Yeah, I did it 8 years.
That's incredible. And as you separated, I'm curious because I hear a lot from active military as they separate. Sometimes the challenges of accessing benefits and services now as a veteran. Do you rely on those benefits and services as a veteran for your health care and other needs?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so can I say, as we are here in Reno, because I do a lot of roundtables with veterans talking about the challenges now accessing those benefits and those services. I'm curious, under the current administration, when we're seeing them freezing positions or firing positions, particularly in veterans community or at veterans hospitals, or the services that we at the federal level provide for veterans, firing and freezing some of those staff positions. Have you had an impact or seen that impact at all here in Northern Nevada?
Actually, yeah. Myself personally, I've seen increased wait times for some of my appointments. My family is all military as well. My dad was Air Force, my cousin's Navy. My cousins had extremely long wait times, and when a doctor wants to see you every 6 months, or every 3 months, but they can only see you every 6 months because of their panel, they're too impaneled, they don't have another provider that would be able to see you. That's concerning, right?
That's what they're telling you is why the wait times are so long?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, my dentist actually said that too. They'd like to see me, 3 times a year, but they can't because they don't have another dentist that takes on these, other patients. And so in order to fulfill all their patients, they go down to 2 per year. And then if they kick you to community care, right? Community care is funded by the VA. So if the VA's funding is frozen, regardless of whether or not they've got people filling the positions, they're not going to be able to kick veterans to community care either.
And so you're seeing that impact here in Nevada?
I felt it. Yeah. It's taken a while to get mental health care appointments, unless you've already got an active referral and you've seen that person a few times, and you've got, let's say you got 3 or 4 more visits with that person, then you can probably get in depending on what their panel load is. And it's not necessarily even just in Northern Nevada. My dad lives up in North Idaho, and he's gotten increased wait times to try and find mental care for his PTSD.
Based on the same thing, that because of the freezes?
Yeah. Yep, because they've been restricting, they've been coming back a little bit with the community care. That's really all he's got access to within reasonable driving distance is community care. But because of that, it's dried up for him.
So what do veterans do then? It just is crazy to me. How do you access the services that you need? You have to wait, or what do you do?
Well, that's a good question. A lot of the time, you do have to wait, or you have to find a workaround. If you know a veteran service organization that is in, or if you know somebody at the VA that can hook you up, but that's what we're used to in the military, is kind of trying to figure those hookups out.
So what would you want me or congressional members know that actually have the ability to appropriate funds for positions for the VA as they provide them? What would you want us to know, be aware of, as what you're seeing on the ground here?
Well, I feel like it's kind of funny if you say appropriating funds. It's like if you can appropriate the funds, but they still get frozen later. It's doesn't help anything. I think the funds have been appropriated, and I think they were appropriated correctly. I think that they need to be allocated. I think they need to be released instead of frozen. I think I think the primary care for our veterans needs to be more accessible, needs to have a lower wait time. You know, I could see revamping some of the systems, right? But the hack and slash method that's kind of been taking place is degrading the trust that veterans have in the federal services that they, I wouldn't say rely on, but that help ease their transition and help them, you know, hopefully strive to get a normal life after military service, especially if it was a difficult service.
Yeah, see, no, thank you for sharing this, because this is a frustrating love. It's so frustrating for those of us that appropriated the funds.
Right.
Because I have roundtables. I go around the state, talk to veterans. What do you need? What do we need to know? Where can we focus and make sure that we're appropriating these necessary benefits, and whether it's passing new laws, but we need to make sure we're taking care of our veterans. We pass the legislation, we pass the funding for it, and then we see what's happening here, this kind of slash and burn. It's not a targeted kind of process of
right.
Where can we turn right some of the funding, where can we figure out how we decrease some government and make it streamlined. This isn't that. This is really this process of just no thought in how they're going about it and the impacts on people's lives that you just talked about.
Right.
That they're seeing. And it just seems like it's cool and just not really what they want to do and what is good for this country. Yeah.
Yep, I would agree.
No, listen, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for everything that you've done, not just your service, but even after, as you separated, your commitment to veterans and still the military. And your wife as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'm meeting with Liz Woolsey, the owner of the Stargazer Inn near Great Basin National Park, to talk about how the firings of park workers and the chaos have affected our outdoor recreation economy. Liz, thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure.
We are here in Northern Nevada. Kind of, if you don't mind, introduce yourself and where Baker, Nevada is.
Yes, okay. So I am Liz Woolsey. I'm the owner and Chief Enthusiasm Officer of the Stargazer Inn and Bristlecone General Store in Baker. And yeah, Baker is 4.5 hours north of Las Vegas on the Utah border. But from Reno, it's a 6-hour drive on Highway 50. We drove it out here today. I love that loneliest highway, but it's not lonely. It's solitude. It's mountains, it's peace, it's Nevada. So yeah, I've owned the Stargazer Inn and Bristlecone General Store for 3.5 years.
And you're located right
at
Great Basin
National the home
Park.
of Great Basin National Park.
And how successful your business is based on tourism coming to the park.
Right. So we are a very small community with just a handful of businesses. But my general store, it provides groceries, camping gear, books, maps, conversation, information, great coffee. And we are 5 miles from the main entrance of the national park. So we get about 150,000 visitors a year, but for a small community, that is a lot. Our definition of busy is a little different than some of the other national parks.
So that's a big deal.
But it's a big deal, and we love welcoming them and making sure they have what they need so they can connect with the mountains, the trees, the creeks, the stars. And we're open almost all year. We close the month of December, but for every season, we are just so happy to meet people from all over the world and just make sure they're welcomed and they know where they're going and they report back and say what a great time they've had.
That's wonderful. So we're talking because some of the policies from this administration have really had a negative impact on our national parks. And because of that, we're seeing a downturn in tourism and revenue being generated. So I wanted to talk to that because I know I've been to Great Basin National Park. It is absolutely beautiful. Yeah. There's so much to do during the day and at night. Like you said, it's a dark sky spot. Yep. And so you want to go out there. Anybody who hasn't been there,
go.
But I also know, because I know the Park Service there, and you know the Park Service intimately.
Yes,
talk about that.
Yes.
But under this administration, they've cut 20% of the staff at just that national park. It's devastating to that park. Can you talk a little about why?
Sure. So we are a small staff, but my husband worked for the National Park Service for 32 years. We've been at 10 national parks. I would say the staff at Great Basin is the most passionate we've ever met. They love their jobs, they're connected to the resource, they're connected to each other, and they're connected to our little community. And that's really important. We call it the Valentine's Day Massacre. These 5 rangers went in to work. One of them was coming out of her cave tour. She was leading a cave tour. And she got out of the cave tour into the visitor center, and they said, "You're fired."
And this is Lehman's Caves.
So Lehman Caves, yes, Lehman Caves. You can take a beautiful tour of this million-year-old limestone cave.
And they just said, "You're fired without any reason."
Without reason, don't go to your office. You're out. And it just so happened that I was doing a pizza night at the store, already scheduled pizza night, Valentine's Day at the store. which is a joyous thing. It's fun. It's community building. The visitors that are there get to have good fresh pizza, but it became a gathering spot. These 5 Rangers were just knocked off their feet, and we all rallied around them. And there was crying, there was, some hugs and everything, but it became a comfort zone for them because we are so tight knit, and we want to have them, one was 1 month away from the 12 months, just almost, and this is what they want to do. So it has been, yes, and 20% of a small staff is huge. So now cave tours were put on hold, and then it just altered their schedule so, greatly. Then that means when I have hotel guests that have made these reservations and they come all these miles because we are so far out and remote, and then they can't get in the caves, or a trail is closed, or a campground is closed because we don't have enough staff to clean it. It does impact their vacation. And yes, people they've waited all year to come out and de-stress and get in the mountains, and then
now they can't.
Yeah, no, they can't.
Have you seen a negative impact in revenue to your inn or to the general store?
So yeah, and those numbers are still coming in, of course, but yes, we have seen, people are hesitant because if they come all the way out to Baker and they can't do what they want to do, they may not come.
Right.
So,
are you seeing an impact from the tariffs as well?
So far, only my coffee prices have risen at the moment. But as far as I feel like the ripple effect hasn't hit me yet, but it will. It will. My goods and services will definitely go up, and I'm going to have to raise my prices. Which I don't want to do.
Yeah. The other thing that I know, and you know this as well, is that our national parks already were understaffed.
Yes.
Right? Underfunded, understaffed.
Mm-hmm.
And so now there's less staff to do what you just said and also keep the park safe for tourists,
Absolutely. Right? I mean, we are very remote, and our trails are vast. So if you do get lost or something, then if there's not enough people to do a search and rescue, that's very dangerous. We get a life flight helicopter in sometimes, but that's even, questionable if we can even find somebody. So we are all concerned about the resource, about, just the preservation of the resource if there's not enough people to clean up, and for law enforcement as well, of course.
Yeah, no, it's devastating. I see that across the state.
Yeah.
Liz, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me and telling your story. I think that is so important for people to understand.
I really want people to come out and continue to support national parks and use their voice to write to their senators to say, can you support us in these times?
Our last stop is in Fallon, Nevada. I am speaking with Jane Moon, the Fallon Director of Tourism, about the incredible opportunities we have for travel in rural Nevada and the impacts rural communities could face from threats to our tourism economy. So, Jane, thank you for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome.
And most people don't know, we are actually in Fallon, Nevada, which is a beautiful, beautiful rural community here in northern Nevada, which I love coming to.
The oasis of Nevada.
That's right. I'm glad you said that. But I'm talking about tourism and travel throughout the state, and I want to focus on the positive impact that tourism and travel has in northern Nevada, in some of our rural communities. So you are the director here in the city of Fallon for tourism and special events.
Correct.
But talk a little bit about that, but also the other hat that you wear, if you don't mind.
Sure. So as you said, I'm the Director of Tourism and Special Events here at the City of Fallon, and I'm also the Rural Commissioner for the Nevada Commission on Tourism. So I have the distinct honor of visiting with our friends in the rurals and making sure, of course, that they have some say in what is shown by Nevada tourism to all of Nevada, to our region, the United States, and abroad. So it's impactful work, and I'm pleased to have the job that I do. I'm thankful to Mayor Tedford for having appointed me for the tourism director here in Fallon. I couldn't be the rural commissioner without his support.
So, you had a great mayor.
I do. Great boss.
So here's what I know of tourism travel industry. It generates probably about $55 billion to the United States last year. It's a big industry.
Yes.
And in the state of Nevada, it has generated about $8 billion. And in the rural communities, when you engage in you're bringing tourism and travel to your communities, it's generating revenue that is important.
It's impactful. When we do bring the added value of tourism to our rural Nevada areas, it not only impacts those rural areas, but impacts tourism in Nevada because we offer a diverse offering diverse package.
I think, what do you offer? If somebody wanted to come here.
Well, here we have
Yeah.
outdoor adventures, right? We have arts, we have history, we have indigenous culture that people are very interested in. We have so many people interested in history coming to Nevada. So some people will just come for history, some people will come for adventure. And they're the case of people who dabble in all of those areas. So people knowing that those offerings are here in Fallon, in northern Nevada, in our rurals, is important for them to see rather than just sometimes they come and they expect, you know, the neon lights and everything, which we have and we love. You know, we would not be Nevada without that. But giving them additional benefit of other things to do, to know Nevada as a whole is really something special.
You know, in Washington D.C., where my husband had an apartment line there for work. It's near the Smithsonian, and
Beautiful.
there is the Natural History Museum. And one day I was walking by and I see marketing for an exhibit they have, and it was called the Dark Skies.
Yes,
exhibit. So,
it's ours.
yeah, exactly. So when you talk about that, because it was all the way in Washington D.C.,
Yes.
they're talking about dark skies.
Dark
What
skies.
are dark skies?
Well, you know, that's a movement right now in terms of making dark skies a national park.
Mhm.
Because in places like DC, and I just returned maybe 3 days ago from New York, if you look up, you're not necessarily seeing the stars, right? So they have too much light pollution. So places in Nevada like our Great Basin National Park, where we have the immense telescopes that can see far beyond what our eyes can see.
Yeah.
But even if you just walked into a place near, you know, the national park, you can look up and see all the stars.
So the tourists that come here, that you're marketing to come here, are they both domestic tourists and international tourists that you have seen come to Northern Nevada?
Yes. So we make an effort to make sure that we also tell our within Nevada, you know, we want people to travel from Las Vegas up and from Reno down and everywhere in between. So we market to our own Nevadans, to our region, to the United States, and to everywhere across abroad. Yes, yeah.
So one of the things that I've been hearing from folks in Nevada, because I've been talking about tourism, travel, and our service industry, we're seeing a downturn in some of that travel coming to Nevada because of tariffs.
Okay.
Because of some of the tariffs that have been imposed by this administration that are very high, and reciprocal tariffs, it's actually hindering people from out of the country coming into this country, including in Nevada. And one of the things I heard is Canadian travel is of concern, and it is down because of the reciprocal tariffs and some other things that have been happening in the U.S. politics with Canada. I'm curious, have you seen tourism impacted at all? And or we don't rely that much on international tourism here?
We do rely on international tourism, but we're a couple months behind in terms of numbers, and Travel Nevada does a great job in sourcing that for us. I was in Canada with Travel Nevada in April, and we were at the largest travel and adventure show for Canada, and that was Calgary. And as polite as Canadians are, you know, there were some conversation and some responses to our invitation as to maybe in 4 years. That kind of thing. There was some hesitation, but I also noticed that those people, there are a lot of people who have homes in Arizona and some even in Nevada. It doesn't stop their travel because, you know, that's part of the routine, that's part of what they do.
Yeah.
But if that kind of conversation continues, it's just natural for people to feel a little anxious.
Yeah.
So anxiety will impact what we do, what our behaviors are, and that includes tourism and
Yeah, especially a travel plan, right?
Yes.
Where you're going to
Yes.
go. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's interesting. A lot of our travel into this country, particularly in Nevada, we require people to have disposable income.
Yes.
That's why they're going to come to Rome, and that's why you're marketing to them and
Yeah.
come spend your time and money in this beautiful place and see what we have to offer. The concern that I am hearing is there's still high prices for people to pay at the grocery store and housing costs, and that's including U.S. citizens, right? Anybody traveling to Northern Nevada or traveling. Do you see your numbers being impacted that long term, or how far out do you project the numbers for travel and enough to see if there's a trend or a pattern happening?
I was speaking with my friends in the events industry, and
Yeah.
I believe that they said they were low last quarter
Okay.
in terms of what they saw. In terms of events, pricing changes very quickly because they cannot guarantee that the vendors and the suppliers can't guarantee if there's a price change for them. So that's coming out on the consumer end. So if we're doing an event and let's say we have a projected budget of $20,000 and our supplies have gone up and our bookings are later because people are holding on to their money for as long as they can, then your event's going to be very impacted by that because your event then becomes less participated, less attended, and then your costs are going to be increased. So those are the kind of concerns that would impact tourism and the late bookings or the late cancellations or non-booking at all. You know, that really impacts what we do in tourism. Of course, much of what we do in rural Nevada, in terms of what we have to offer our communities and our tourism events is based on room tax. So if people are not booking in the hotels and motels, then that impacts what we can offer as far as the programming, the events, and things that are not just for tourists, but for our own communities.
Well, that's right, and that's what I was going to bring up, because it's not just the city of Fallon. There are so many small businesses that directly or indirectly, right, their focus is that tourist trade.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That could be impacted if numbers decrease. You're going to see that maybe in the lodging, or you're going to see it in I don't know, fishing gear, whatever it is, people coming out here to for tourism and travel, right?
And
you have a lot of those small businesses here.
Yes, and mayor and our city council, my direction is to make sure that we partner with local businesses and to make sure that they're gaining that opportunity as well. Right. So that those impact them in terms of what pricing they can give us, and impacts us and what our budget is as well. So everyone's touched somehow. Yes.
And we were talking earlier, and your tourism and travel makes it, your revenue generated from that proportionally different than what you would see, say, in the Las Vegas area. But it matters.
Yes,
what comes in here, right? Every little bit matters as it comes.
Because we don't have as many options. Yes, so people coming in and sharing our events with us, that's not only good for us and good for them, but it impacts our economy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I cannot thank you enough for joining me. So thank you for joining me with Three Things with Catherine Cortez Masto. And now for our missing minute. So I posed a question to Nevadans, and you're going to see what that question is, but it has everything to do with the fact that our president accepted a plane from the country of Qatar. And you're going to see the response that Nevadans had to my question. Now I've got one final question.
Yes.
Part of our missing minute.
Okay.
If you would. I'm just curious. Has a foreign government ever offered you a plane as a gift?
No.
No.
Not a plane, but maybe a pen.
Shoot, I think my own government hasn't even given me a plane.
Perhaps they sent me an email and it ended up in my junk folder. I'll go check.
No, they have not given me a plane. And if they did, I wouldn't know how to operate it. I think it's $23,000 an hour. Yeah, I mean, expensive. I would have had to get Bitcoin when it was brand new.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.